So I was thinking about the fact that this month I will have paid off my alternatives teacher certification program, and which will free up $400 per month that I can use towards something else. More than likely, it'll be towards student loans. But I came across this bar graph, and it shows the student loan debt ratio for white borrowers and black borrowers. Now, there are a lot of things that factor into why these numbers are different. Although you can see they're not drastically different, but they are different. Okay. And so I want to talk about the fact that when I was a college and career counselor at a high school here in Houston, um, I noticed some things when it came to filling out the FAFSA with some of my students that I had. Now, this particular school is located in a very rich neighborhood, though majority of the students that go there live in poor neighborhoods. It is a low income high school located in a high income area. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's just what it is. So, as I was helping some of my students fill out the FAFSA, I noticed quite a few things. Now, there was not a lot of white kids that went to this school, but the white kids that did go to this school, their parents made a shitload of money, and they lived in the area where the school was located. So, filling out their FAFSA, the amount that their parents would have had to pay out of pocket was astronomically high. So these white kids did not qualify for any financial aid. They didn't qualify for any kind of student loans or anything. Basically, their parents had to pay for them to go to school out of pocket, which is why their student loan debt ratio is a little lower, for the simple fact that, oh, this is their how much they have to pay out of pocket, which is their estimated family contribution. That's based on how much money their parents made. And one of my students, his dad was the only one that worked. So, and his dad made six figures a year, but he was expected to pay almost six figures a year for the college he was going to. He was going to Texas A&M. And so, with that, even though that's the expected family contribution, that's not necessarily how much the family is going to pay. So therefore, he would have had to take out some loans, like from some private loans or something like that, but he was not going to get any loans from the school or from his FAFSA application. So he would have had to take out some loans to supplement how much his parents, would not have been able to pay. Now, then you have the Hispanic and black students who their parents did not make a whole lot of money. However, their parents made enough money for them to not qualify for free money. So all they had for financial aid were student loans. And this is something that happened with me when I was in college. I did not qualify for any kind of financial aid other than student loans, and that was all I went to school on was student loans. With the exception of my last year where I received a scholarship for the major I was in. I was a journalism major, and I received a scholarship from a black newspaper, one of the oldest black newspapers here in Houston. And I also received the Texas Be on Time loan, which was for graduating within the 4 years. Though I don't feel like that should have been a loan. I feel like that should have been like a scholarship because, rewarding me for my hard work. But no. Now, as far as when it comes to white borrowers and black borrowers, white borrowers have more financial understanding of how that works. However, black borrowers don't. Because I had a lot of black students who didn't understand what loans were. Neither did their parents understand what loans were and that they had to be paid back. Now, growing up, black people do not have a lot of financial literacy. They don't have a lot of access to, knowing how to work their finances, knowing that when you borrow money, you have to pay that money back, not knowing about interest rates, things like that. Whereas white people, they don't have to worry about things like that. That's something that is already inbred in them, because a lot of white people own their own businesses. They have family businesses that have been in their family for a long time. So they don't have to necessarily worry about money. But when it comes to black people going to college, they do. And this is the thing, like, for a long time, black people could not go to universities or get any kind of secondary or post secondary education. So I feel like a lot of colleges make it harder for black students to get in, as far as when it comes to financial aid, by, for one, not giving them a lot of free money, two, giving them a lot of loans with like sky high interest rates. And with people who don't have financial literacy, they don't know how this is going to affect them once they graduate from college. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get a job in your field when you graduate from college. I graduated with a bachelor's in journalism, and I am a teacher. I know a lot of my friends who graduated with various degrees, and they all became teachers as well, because that's really the only thing that they can get into. And then with Texas having alternative certification programs to where you don't have to go back to school, that's what they did. Now, I still have $20,000 in loans, because my loans are in forbearance, because I have other debts that I have to pay off, which I also want to talk about too, is that while people are in college, young people, millennials, people my age, while we were in college, a lot of us got credit cards, not knowing that those credit cards were going to end up biting us in the butt. I always told myself that I would never ever get credit cards, and I ended up getting two credit cards and maxed out both of them, and that's like together was $5,000. One of them I paid off earlier this year, but I didn't get that card while I was in college. This is one that I got after college, and it took me a while to pay it off, and the card ended up being charged off because of the fact that I wasn't making the payments on it. So that's another thing that factors into this debt ratio, is that it's not just student loans, but it's also a lot of other things that we accrue while we're in college, because we don't have that kind of financial literacy or knowledge of how finances work. And so we get credit cards, we get loans. I had a friend who he got financial aid, like free money, and then he also was given loans that he didn't need, but he would take the loans and spend them on frivolous things, things that weren't important. Like he bought a car with one of the loans. He got a lot of money in loans. He bought a car. He would always buy lunches, people lunches, buy dinners, buy expensive stuff. And I would tell him, like, that's going to accrue once you get out of college. You're going to have to pay all that money back. And he was like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to have this job or whatever. And we were both journalism majors. We were both journalism majors. He ended up being a police officer. So he ended up going to the police academy after graduating college because he could not find a job. He was a broadcast journalism major. I was a print journalism major. And he ended up going to the police academy to become a police officer. So these are things that I think like go into the fact of why there's a difference. But as you can see, there's not much of a difference between a debt ratio. You have a bachelor's degree, which is only about a $4,000 difference, maybe a little under 4,000, and then you have the associate's degree, which is about $2,000 difference. It's not that big of a difference. Now, I want to do more videos like this about how to get out of debt, how to not accrue so much debt, because I've paid off, I want to say, a little over $3,000 in a matter of maybe a year and a half, a little over $3,000, maybe closer to $4,000, because I made poor choices with my money, but now I'm back on track to, making better choices with my money. I also want to talk more so about how millennials are trying to buy houses and how it's hard for them, and alternative living styles. There's so much I want to go into as far as financial situations go, because I feel like there's not enough information. Well, there's not enough accessible information out there for black people. when it comes to, being financially stable. Now, um, I do want to talk about my finances as well, as far as like all the debt that I have accrued over the years and the debts that I am paying now. One thing is, if you have debts outside of your student loans, I would suggest paying off those debts first, putting your loans in forbearance. Yes, they will accrue interest over that time, and in the end, it'll be a higher payoff. However, you won't have to struggle to pay off X, Y, and Z debts as well as paying off student loans. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people get twisted. Oh, I want to pay this. Try to pay everything at the same time to where you're left struggling, for money. That's not how you pay stuff off. You know, I've always heard, oh, you pay off the highest debt first. No, you pay off the debt that has the highest interest rate first. Because the ones with the lower interest rates, they won't have a lot of interest at the end.